And it looks like we're live. Hey, everybody, welcome in. It's episode 3 of Shea Hello to the Nerds. I'm Pete Dwyer, the baseball nerd, joined as always by Casey of the Shea Hello newsletter. Happy 4th of July weekend to all of you guys. Hopefully, you're enjoying Star Spangled Sunday, what they're calling on Peacock, where we get all of these kind of games. We got a great show today. We had to make a call to kind of change the date. Real life work got in the way, but we're not going to let that get in the way of us having a little bit of fun here. Casey, how are you, man?
Hey, Pete, I'm doing pretty well. Exciting week. And of course, we're right smack in the middle of the weekend of Star Spangled Baseball, as MLB has coined it.
Right. Star Spangled Weekend. So they're going to get everything on Peacock as much as they can and try to see if that's going to be how they go forward with this, I guess.
Everything is on Peacock. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. And we changed our time. We're right smack in the middle of all these games going on. But it's been a crazy week as always. And tomorrow is a new week. We're right there on the one end of the bridge going to the next.
Exactly. And it's been a crazy day so far too, within baseball, just kind of in general. I know the Mets got a crazy late start. What's happening in that game right now? Since that's you, let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's 5-3 Mets. They got a run early. They gave it back. Nolan McLean, arguably their best pitcher right now, gave up 3 runs, I believe, right back in the first. And this is after his best start of the year last week. And the Mets scored 4 more right after. Soto, 2-run single. A.J. Ewing, that I'll talk a little bit later, hit a home run against a lefty, which I want to tone in a little bit later. And right now, currently, they're up 5-3 in I believe, the 4th inning.
So I watched a little bit of it at the very beginning of it, just because they were running late. Atlanta's got some potentials there to do a lot of different things with damage, and they really got limited. Was that McLean limiting them, or was that them limiting themselves?
McLean is up. He's very consistent this year. And, we all know he's a rookie, and it's a top phenom rookie. Came out of the gates hot last year. This year, he had 2 starts ago, arguably his worst start. Last start, his best. This start, not good. And it's the best way I can answer his stuff. His spin rate is the best ever measured in the history of baseball since they start measuring this stuff. And he can't locate it because it's so filthy, It's like too good to have. And so he's hitting guys like today. He's walking too many guys. What he needs to do is learn how to, his fastball, his 4-seam fastball is what needs to be pitched more and located better so he can set up, in non-hitters counts, the sweeper. And this is what he was doing last year. This year, not so much. So we all know the potential for McLean. He easily, he's not going to win the Rookie of the Year this year, but I mean, everybody looks at him as a cornerstone of the Mets pitching staff for a long time.
That's a fair statement. What else you got going on? Talk to me about the other stuff.
Well, first of all, I see people coming into the chat, and this is episode 3 of Say Hello to the Nerds. And everybody who's in here, I know we're a little early in the live podcast. More people will be joining us. Comments are open. Questions are open. Pete and I are happy and excited to talk baseball with you guys for the next 40 minutes or so. And we got one question coming in. We'll get to that. Stephen Dwyer says Miami will finish second in the NL East, advance to the NLCS. Perfect segue for where I want to go with this. But Pete, this is our first episode where we are officially say hello to the nerds. So I just want to say thank you if anyone's watching this live. And I know we put this out there later for everybody to watch, but I love our name. I really do.
Oh yeah, I love it. I think it's fantastic. You guys came up with the name, and I definitely appreciate it. I know Casey appreciates it, and it kind of brings both of the things that we're doing into a head, especially as we talk in these podcasts, and it's definitely something exciting to do. So, thank you guys for giving us the name. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it. Let's get to that hot take.
Yeah. You want to go first or myself?
You take it first because
All
this
right.
is kind of in your wheelhouse.
All right. Well, that's why I said Stephen Dwyer, who just commented, he said Miami will finish second in the NL East, advance to the NLCS. So, perfect segue. My hot take was all about talking about the Miami Marlins. Um, and he took it a step further. He thinks the Marlins are going to the NLCS. Sure. I don't know if I agree with that right now. But my hot take is uh, the Marlins are going to get into the playoffs. They're right now, I believe, as we stand right on this Sunday, as we talk, a game out of the third wild card, and the Cardinals are right there with them for
Mhm.
that last wild card. And the Marlins had the best month of June of any team in baseball. I believe they went 20-6. They're off to a good start in July. Uh, they have a plus differential runs to giving up runs of like plus 40, I want to say, something around there. But the point is, uh, I'm not doubting the Marlins at all right now. I'm not going to go as far as say they're going to get to the NLCS, but I don't believe so much in the Cardinals making the playoffs as I do the Miami Marlins. Kyle Stowers is finally going back to the 2025 Kyle Stowers of what we saw before he got hurt at the end of last year. Came back this year, started off slow. Now he's just taking over with his power bat, left-handed bat. Otto Lopez, Xavier Edwards,
Mhm.
Sandy Alcantara just went 8 innings, 1 run. You know how he could be a lights out, ace anytime he wants. Their bullpen kind of scares me. They don't have, Fairbanks hasn't really done the job. Right now, they're kind of like a bullpen by committee. But my point is, before we
Yeah.
get to your hot take, is I do see the Miami Marlins getting to the playoffs. They're not winning the division. And I'll go with Steven, who was kind enough to drop a comment. I could see them finishing in second. The Phillies are right there for second. I do see the Braves still winning the NL East, but Miami will get to the playoffs. I can't tell you how much damage they will do. It's only July 5th today, but don't sleep on the Marlins. There's my hot take for today.
I love it. I love it. Actually, and I want to go. I want to stay on this for just a second before we keep going. Steve, do they beat the Brewers or do they beat the Dodgers? Because one of them, if they're going to the NLCS, it's either going to be the Brewers or the Dodgers, right? So where does Miami figure in that? Come, let me
Yeah,
know, Steve, because I'm curious to see where you're at. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm absolutely not, but I'm kind of curious to see where you're going with that. Um, I think the Brewers have a really good shot to keep it going and to get into the NLCS just just like they did. I think the Dodgers have the opportunity to get into the NLCS. I'm not as high on the Dodgers. I haven't been all year, and we've talked about it. They just don't have that late game, late and close kind of scoring ability, and you see them really holding on to that 3-run homer to win those games, and you're just not going to see that. That's not sustainable. Something going long term. The Brewers have that small ball mentality. They're doing the things to make it happen, to get the runs across. They're doing the things to win the games. They have a little bit of pitching issues, honestly, but every team does, right? You're going to have something. Steve, I love it. I'm loving it where you're at right there. That they take down the Dodgers because that's where I want to see that go. I do believe that the Marlins could take down the Dodgers. I do. I believe that the Brewers could take down the Dodgers again, given a shot if they can come in hot. They came in so flat last year. They weren't the same team in the NLCS that they were for the beginning of the year. I don't think that happens again. But Steve, I think you're absolutely right. I do see that as an absolute possibility. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Now, kind of my version of a hot take. And I don't think it's that hot, to be quite honest with you, because there's a lot of people saying the same things. This is about Philly. I love the Phillies. I love what they do. I love the city. I love the town, but they're not going to be in the postseason this year. They're overplaying their record. They're overplaying where they're at. They're doing a lot of things really, really great, and they're getting lucky. I
Okay.
think I truly, honestly believe in their pitching staff. I think Zach Wheeler is amazing. I think Sanchez is unbelievable. Um, but I don't think that they get to the postseason this year.
I
Just
mean,
sim- just simply from the fact they're overplaying their record right now,
yeah.
and that's not sustainable, especially as we start getting into the big months.
So right now they lead the wild card in the NL by 1.5 games
Mhm.
over the Cardinals that I just spoke about with my hot take, and the Marlins are right behind the Cardinals. So if you're saying the Phillies won't make the playoffs, they're going to have to drop out of what is right now Cubs, Cardinals, Marlins. The Nationals are 3 games behind that last wild card spot. So while it's your hot take, the Phillies are 50-39, I believe, like the best record in baseball ever since they fired Ron Thompson and
Yep.
hired Don Mattingly. I understand why you don't think this is sustainable. They have older players, you know, but who are they? Who's taking over for them? Because right now you have locked in. It's only July 5th. There's 90 games to
Mhm.
go. But right now you have the Phillies, the Cubs, and the Cardinals with the Marlins on the outside looking in. Phillies, you're saying, are out eventually at the end of the year. Who's replacing them?
So the Marlins are playing closer to who they are, right? The Marlins are doing the things that matter in close and late games. They're doing the things that they need to do. They're not overplaying they're not overplaying who they are. They're not somebody that they're pretending to be somebody that they're not. Where you have that with the Phillies. Maybe we got to wait for time to catch up a little bit with the Phillies, maybe, but I just don't see it sustainable long term. I see the Marlins sliding in very, very easily. I see, honestly, I see the Nationals making a push. I think what the Nationals have is sustainable longer term than what the Phillies are doing, because you see how the Nationals are playing baseball. They're not they're not above themselves. They're not playing above the record. They're not playing above themselves, and I think that that's important, especially as we look at July. And kind of go with me here on this for a second. On July 4th, 2023, I'm a Rangers guy. The Rangers were fully in control of their destiny as July approached. And as July 4th came up, they started faltering really, really badly. And you look at what happened in 2023, they made the postseason by the skin of their teeth. They probably shouldn't have even been in the postseason because they played so poorly the rest of the half of baseball. And remember, they were 40-20. At 60 games in, they were 40-20. They had the entire league on lockdown, and then they fell off. And I see the same thing happening when you see these teams get hot and they play above their record and they play above their team. That's what happens.
Okay.
Whether they can keep it going, I don't know. And that's why I'm saying I just don't see the Phillies keeping this sustainable.
I don't think I agree with you. I don't see it with the Phillies either. And you have two teams that are, they weren't supposed to start off well and not have big years, but here we are with the Marlins and the Nationals playing around 500 baseball. Obviously, the Nationals are around 2 games up on 500. That's all you need to make the playoffs, or at least be in the conversation at the end of the year. And as we get closer to the deadline, which is less than a month now, obviously the deadline is going to dictate a lot. Uh,
Yep.
what the Marlins will do, what the Nationals will do, what the Phillies will do, uh, and then obviously the ramifications of the CBA expiring. We don't know what's going to happen at the deadline for the first time in a while in terms of what teams are going to do because of the impending lockout that will happen. So that's all exciting, not the lockout talk, but always the deadline it is exciting. So I do think that the deadline for these teams are going to be very important, as it always is when you have 500 teams trying to buy and make a run to get to the playoffs because they're so close together.
So out of let's take the six let's take six teams, right, that are leading their divisions. Who makes the biggest splash in the offseason or in the trade deadline?
Out of the division
Out of
leaders,
all the division leaders right as of today.
oh man. So let me go through this out aloud. You got the Yankees. You got the is it the White Sox? You got and then the Rangers, right? In the AL,
No, it's the Mariners.
they just keep flip flopping right now. So
Yep.
yeah, all right. The Mariners, and then in the NL, you got the Braves. You got the I'm blanking out here. I know who they are, and then the Dodgers. NL Central is obviously
The Brewers.
the Brewers, right?
Yep.
To answer your question, Mariners. We discussed this.
Yep.
Jerry Dipoto.
Yep.
It just always seems that his nickname is I forget exactly what it is, but he's known to make trades, and deadline is literally the trade deadline, and they need help. And they did it last year. They acquired Suarez, at the deadline, got him back, and he didn't do much for them. They're always there. They were one game away from the World Series, the Mariners, last year. They're going to buy, and they're going to Jerry Dipoto with them being in first by a game or so. That's my answer. It's the Seattle Mariners.
Okay.
What are you thinking?
Who did they buy?
Well, they need offense help. I mean, that's always been
Right.
offensive help. That's been the story for them. But the Mariners this year, they've changed everything up. They're kind of piggybacking a lot of pitchers this year.
Mhm.
Luis Castillo, they've done it with Wu. Gilbert they haven't because he's just lights out lately. But who did they buy?
Yeah.
Right now, it's probably they're looking at what everybody else is looking at. If their offense is not as good as they want it to be, offensive hitters, it's going to be a bidding war because it buyers demand here. Sellers are going to be looking for hot prospects or ready prospects, whatever X team wants in return. And so you're going to have to pay a premium price if you're the Mariners, if we're talking about them, to get a bat. They did it last year. I forget what they gave up to get Suarez. But again, with the deadline, with the lockout, things might change. But offensive help is what the Mariners need right now.
So I'm thinking, and again, this is just simply where I'm at. I'm a Texas Rangers guy. But I think the Rangers do something. I think they buy. I think they make a splash, and I think they go a little weird, and I think they go after Wilson Contreras.
Wow. Okay. I don't see that as a crazy thing. I don't at all. I can see that happening.
I think they don't have a first baseman that's hitting. I mean, Jake Berger is way too streaky. There's nobody else out there that's going to give them the bat that Contreras can get them. He's going to be expensive, and that's what they said that they were saving up for was trade deadline moves. If they were on the bubble, they were going to spend the rest of what they had on the trade deadline. So here's where we're at. They're a half a game out. If they stay in this kind of contention, I see they buy, and I see they buy somebody that is going to make a quick difference.
Yeah.
Luis Arraez has been a big topic of conversation in the room. I don't see that happening. He's a slap hitter. They need somebody that can change the direction of the entire club. And I think that's Wilson Contreras.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when they won the World Series. They were right around 500. They weren't, going crazy in terms of running away with the league. And then the Mets were involved in helping you guys win the World Series, with the trade with Max Scherzer.
Yep.
That this year seems awfully familiar to that. I don't know what their version of Max Scherzer is this year, but if you're saying it might be Contreras, that could obviously propel you guys to a World Series if everything else goes well.
Well, if they get Cody Bradford come back, they get Jason or Jordan Montgomery come back. That's kind of the Scherzer. That's the Scherzer angle, quite
Right.
honestly. If they get those guys back, they got to add a bat. They've got to add offense, and that's where I see them.
Okay.
Where I
I
see
like
them
I
going.
like I like that because I do think the Rangers will make a splash. We've already seen them do it, with Chris Young, and they won a World Series while making a big splash back in 2023. So yeah, I could 100% see that.
I
So I got the
do,
Mariners, you got the Rangers in
yeah,
terms of who's
and
going to go. Yeah,
only because I'm close to it, and I see
yeah,
these guys, and it's part of it. Scooble goes to the Dodgers. We talked about that a little bit already.
yep.
Um, a couple shows ago. If Scooble goes to the Dodgers, and the Dodgers, because the Dodgers have the prospects, they can afford it. Does Scooble stay in Los Angeles?
No. I mean, we
No.
talked about it. Nothing's changed. Boris is his agent. Boris is not signing. The lockout again changes everything. We don't know what the new
Right.
rules and everything. It's so hard to answer. No one really knows what will happen after whatever is agreed upon when it is. Um, but I think being a Boris client, it rarely happens when you have a top stud in Screwball signing an extension before free agency. Can the Dodgers afford him? Of course they can. Can they offer him, a lot of money? Yeah, they will, and probably will try to with the heavy deferred money like they do to every player before the lockout happens. And the deferred money the rules will make it tougher to defer money. So, well, I mean, it's a coin flip on this one because of Boris client deferred money lockout coming. So, 50-50 on that. No one knows what's going to happen with the lockout. But yeah, the Dodgers can afford whatever they want. They're the Dodgers. They do it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. Who do the Mets get rid of?
Everybody. They get rid of me. They get rid of you. They get rid of my dog. No, I'm kidding. They. I wrote an article on this last week about everybody. Just the pecking order of who probably will go, who could stay, who probably won't stay. But to sake of talking about the newsletter, and by the way, you can subscribe right now. Hit that orange button on your screen. Mets Talk, Monday through Friday publication, and not just Mets. Obviously, here Pete and I are talking everything baseball. I have sections in my newsletter that we talk baseball, every team, what's going around the league. So hit that subscribe button, the Shea newsletter. As for the Mets deadline, they're keeping these guys, and you just need one hand. They're keeping Nolan McLean, who's pitching as we speak. The Mets are up 5-3 in the top of the sixth. He's getting up 2 earned runs, so he's settled down. They're keeping Christian Scott, who was a top prospect rookie, came back this year after Tommy John missed a year and a half. They're keeping Carson Benj and AJ Ewing. They're keeping Juan Soto. Everybody else is on the table. Everybody. I'm talking Francisco Lindor. He's not going anywhere this year, obviously. Off-season is a different story. And that's a whole topic that I'll probably write about this week for the Shea newsletter. But everybody else, other than the guys that I just said, are on the table. So Brooks Raley, AJ Minter, Tyrone Taylor, Freddie Peralta, Bo Bichette is an interesting story. Hunter Brazaban is an interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have these baby Mets they're not baby Mets anymore, Vientos Beatty and Francisco Alvarez, who've been in the league for 4 years now, that have shown nothing. You're not going to DFA them, obviously. They have value. The Vientos is the least of the value of the guys, but those guys everybody's on the table. And here's the interesting part: Bo Bichette and Luke Weaver, because Bo Bichette has a $42 million option for next year. The way he's playing, we don't know if he's going to opt in or opt out. That's a gamble for him and his agent and his family to decide. He can easily say, I'm opting in, and he gets paid by the Mets for next year $42 million, right? We don't know that answer.
So I was listening to, I think it was Just Baseball, one of the podcasts, and kind of just going through it. But they talked about Bichette and the fact that he was going to definitely be looking at free agency again, that he wasn't going to opt back in because of what's going on in New York, which I thought was interesting because he didn't have the pillow year that he needed to look for another free agent job personally. And especially with a lockout pending, I don't know if that's going to be your best bet. Take the maybe you just take the option and say, "Hey, let's try again next year."
Yeah,
But when I heard that, it immediately, I think I heard it yesterday. Yeah, I was coming back from the lake yesterday fishing. Heard it yesterday on the thing saying that they were looking at Bo was probably going to try free agency again, and it really blew my mind that you would be willing to risk that, especially with everything that has happened with him and what's going on around him. So that
it's a
that
it's a
did surprise me.
fascinating story. Do you want to risk $42 million and opt out of another $42 million for 2028? It's guaranteed. You signed the dotted line.
Yeah.
With the pending lockout, things can change. You don't know if you'll get that or anywhere close from teams because maybe teams, rules will change. Do you want to guarantee yourself getting that money? I would want it, but obviously we're not in Bo Bichette's shoes. So the Mets, the Mets have to make a decision on this. Whether they probably will talk to Bo. Bo's a stand-up guy, and Bo will probably in their best interest tell them whether he thinks he's opting out or not. And if I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I would hope it would, that if he says I'm opting out, the Mets are going to have to put him on the trading block and to get whatever they can. If nobody bites, because that's the other thing, and it's fascinating. Who the hell can afford that kind of money? It's prorated. It's $42 million for the year, but it's going to be half that. And the Mets throw in money. Steve Cohen always does that, but they have to have that talk. The worst thing or the best thing that could happen to the Mets, or worse, whatever, they could just keep him, not put him on the block, and offer him the qualifying offer. He'll reject it. They'll get their draft pick, compensatory draft pick, and go from there. But
you mean if he exercises his option, or doesn't exercise his option, I guess.
Right.
Because he's got a.
Well, no, I'm
is it-
saying that if they don't know, like,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
it's so complicated because of the lockout. But if he opts, they can offer him the qualifying offer if he stays, and they will, obviously. They have
if he doesn't take his option.
Right.
Yeah, gotcha.
That happens
Gotcha.
first. You have to. So, and then the other thing is Luke Weaver. Luke Weaver has 24 consecutive scoreless innings. He hasn't given up as a reliever. He hasn't given up a run since April 31st. It's July 5th. He should be an all-star, in my opinion. The guy has been lights out. He's a setup guy, but who cares? I mean, he could be closing his stuff, his year, former Yankee, former closer for the Yankees.
Yeah.
The guy is literally throwing 10-pitch innings with 3 strikeouts every inning. It's one of the all-time runs for a reliever. He might make the all-star team as guys, filter out by injury and whatnot. But the Mets are going to keep him unless they're blown away by an offer. So you have the guys that are openly shopping, and then you have the fascinating stories like Bichette and Luke Weaver. So, Mets are going to be right front and center of the trade deadline.
So Luke Weaver's he's on a 2-year gig right now, right? That's what I'm saying.
He's got a friendly contract, yeah. 2 years, $21 million, I believe he signed for. So that is a very friendly contract for a reliever who's having probably, the best, his best season of his career. He's just been unbelievable.
Huh.
So
that's an
but
interesting.
the Mets are not going to trade him. They still have him for one more year unless they get a massive haul. So
Right.
We'll see what happens. The Mets are going to be sellers. We know that. And again, they're just going to be front and center with everything. There might be some big splashes. There might be, Brooks Raley is going to be traded. Minter too. Peralta, I have no idea. His stock has gone way down from, the Freddie Peralta that we've known on the Brewers. He's had an awful year. He's like fifth worst ERA in qualified major league starters. This guy was signed and traded for to be their ace. They traded Brandon Sproat and Jet Williams, 2 top 100 prospects, and according to Baseball America. So we'll see what happens as the trade deadline gets closer. It's going to be pretty, fascinating, like I said.
No, and I think it is, but switching gears a little bit, and you brought up the Brewers, and I think that kind of goes to something else I wanted to talk about. So we talked about Philly overachieving the record. We talked about kind of where they're at, and they're overplaying themselves. Milwaukee's underplaying themselves, right? Do you see it that way? Because they're underachieving by 2 wins.
Yeah,
they've got the best record in the National League.
The thing is, they finished with the best record in baseball last year, not just the Nationals, not just the National League, I should say. They finished with 97 wins or 96 wins, more than the Dodgers last year, and it's not about they're making the playoffs, they're winning the division. We talked about it earlier in the podcast about how far they can go, and all that. But your question is if they're underachieving right now. I think they're right on pace to where they should be. Brewers never surprised me. Their payroll is always low. They always turn these guys, their pitchers that they trade for, at the right time and turn the guys they get in return into studs. They know when to trade. They know who to get back. Their front office. It was David Stearns before, but you see that it wasn't just David Stearns. They're doing it without him. I think to answer your question, they are right where they should be. I don't think they're underperforming, overperforming. I think they're the best team in the NL. I think they're the best team probably to get to the World Series at this point and over the Dodgers. Yes.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. I know you agree. You're very high on them.
Yeah, I'm high on the Brewers. I'm high on Mizorowski. I'm high on all of it. Honestly, I love what they've done, what Pat Murphy's done with that team, especially from last year going into this year. And I think that there's so much more that they can accomplish and achieve. I think the ceiling is really, really high for Milwaukee. You look at what Mizorowski's doing. I mean, his pitching is head and shoulders further than anybody else, even Ohtani. I mean, everybody wants to put Ohtani in the mix. I don't know, and I haven't run stats yet today, but I don't even know if Ohtani's qualified. To be honest, if he is qualified, it's going to be really close.
He's right there. I mean, it goes up. I think it's weekly at this point. He's right on the edge. But Mizorowski's the better pitcher.
Yeah.
We just, this year, and it's just a matter of the Brewers, what they do in the postseason. Yeah, and we've talked about it before. Once you get into the postseason, it's a mess for every team. Any team has a chance. Just get into the dance, and then things just take care of themselves. So I do see the Brewers should be the favorite to get to the World Series from the NL, in my opinion. I know a lot of people could disagree with that and say the Dodgers, because they're the Dodgers. They're going to get some players back. The Brewers also just put Brandon Woodruff on the IL, who they just got back after he missed the whole year and was having a good year in the time that he was back. And then yesterday his shoulder gave out. So he's back on the IL. His season might be over. That's a big smash to the rotation. So that influences stuff.
Woody on the IL does hurt them. It does, because Woody on the IL hurts them.
Yeah, definitely.
They need Woodruff in the rotation. You're watching it right now. I've been watching it a little bit over the course of the last couple weeks. Are the Braves too fragile to keep going? Did they get too hot too quick?
The Braves have been awful lately. up
They
until the
have.
Mets came into town. The Mets always seem to help teams who were slumping get out of their slump. We saw with the Blue Jays had lost 6 in a row. The Mets went into the Blue Jays over the weekend or over the end of last week, and Blue Jays took 2 or 3, and they were in a bad slump. Braves they had lost like 12 of their last 16 after that amazing hot start, and they've taken the first 2 against the Mets. They're playing right now. They're trailing the Mets 5-3, but don't trust the Mets right now. It's only the 6th inning. And then they have that odd wraparound game. The Mets are still playing them tomorrow on Monday. So it's a 4-game series. As for the Braves, I'm not high on them. I never were. Acuna's hurt. That obviously does not help them. But Acuna's always hurt. I'm not saying that jokingly. It's a fact. They can be buyers at the deadline, of course. And they have a great team. They're in first place. But they have now welcomed the Phillies into being back by only 3 games. It's insane. So now it's a race. I know you're not high on the Phillies, but the Braves were head and shoulders. They had a 12-game lead, and now it's 3. That's how bad they've been struggling up until, of course, the big bad Mets came in and said, you know what? Here you go. We're going to have position players pitch to you because we're down, 14-3. You scored 2 touchdowns, so here you go.
Right. I just think it's interesting because and I kind of alluded to it a little bit in talking about 23 with the Rangers. You look at those 40-20 starts, and you look at those teams that have gotten to that plateau specifically. At 60 games in, who's 40-20 and who's gone on to win the World Series or who's gone on to the World Series? It's a pretty small number of teams, and it almost becomes a too hot for your own good to start out with, and then it just kind of fizzles out as the year goes on. The Phillies had a miserable start, and they've had an incredible comeback. I'm not taking anything away from the Phillies. What I think, though, in the Braves club and what I think with the Phillies club, I think the Braves, you start seeing a little bit of a slide as the year goes on, especially as the summer gets hotter. You're seeing it right now. I don't think the Phillies can sustain what they've been doing. I would love to see it because I love Don Mattingly. I know Mattingly was a Yankee, and I'm just going past my core belief there. But Don Mattingly was an amazing player. He's an amazing person, and I'd love to see them continue. I just don't see that they have it. I just see them being more. I see them being really loud and not being able to keep that volume going for the rest of the year.
It'll be interesting to see how this NL shapes out. You have a really good Marlins team. I don't think they're winning the division, but we're both not high on the Phillies. We're both not high on the Braves. So, it'll be a dogfight probably between the Phillies and the Braves. And it's baseball. Phillies are right back in it because of everything we said. So I know we only have about 8-9 minutes left or whatever it might be. We want to get into whatever else we need to.
Anything coming out of the All-Star votes? Who's starting? Who's not starting? The snubs? Anything there that's giving you any heartburn?
Well, I'm happy Juan Soto was voted in as a Met. He's starting. Last year he was a big snub. Should have made the All-Star team first year with the Mets last year. He went on to almost a 40-40 season. Somehow didn't make the All-Star team. We know that he got off to a bad start, but I'm happy this season fans voted him in to start because I wrote about this and talked about it. He's got nobody to protect him this year. There's no Pete Alonso. He's got basically Jared Young or Mark Vientos protecting him. Why are pitchers pitching to him? He's leading the NL in OPS. He's a generational player. And so I'm happy that, he's made his 5th All-Star team, 4th different team that he's actually made it on because he's been shopped around. Now he's a Met forever. But I'm just happy that fans voted him in and he gets to start it, especially last year. And then quickly, I don't know where he would fit in, but Pete Crow Armstrong should be starting. He was voted in as a reserve in the outfield. But if you look at his numbers, the guy should be starting. He's an all-star, so I'm not going to, pick and nitpick here whether he should be starting or not. But Pico Armstrong is putting up amazing numbers and probably should be starting. Other than that, I don't think anybody really got snubbed. My biggest snub before I hand it off to you is Sonny Gray. For the Brewers, he's having an amazing year. He's 10-1.
The Red Sox.
Yeah, and he's playing for an awful team. He's got 10 wins. He's got a 2.6 ERA, and he didn't make the All-Star team. To me, that's a snub. There are injuries. He might make it, anyway, but as of right now, he's on the outside looking in. So other than that, no issues. How about you?
The thing that surprised me the most was Guerrero saying that he wasn't going to play.
Really? I understand it completely, though.
I don't know if I do. I don't know if I do. I'm surprised. I know there's the back injury and there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot happening with Guerrero. I'm glad to see Nick Kurtz get the opportunity. Yeah. I think Nick Kurtz is one of those kids that we're going to be talking about. If we talk about baseball for the next 10 years, Nick Kurtz is going to be kind of a headline for the next 10 years discussion. I think he's a special player. I think it's fantastic that he's getting the opportunity. But the baseball fan in me really would like to see Vlad have another All-Star game.
I have no. Vlad's doing what he needs to do. He's paid by the Blue Jays a massive amount of money. He just signed for $500 million. They're obviously not having the year they want because they've been hurt by injuries, and he is one of them. He's playing through a back injury. He does not deserve to make the All-Star team. Fans voted him in, just like everybody else on the Blue Jays, because the fans are Blue Jays are Canada's team.
Is all of Canada voting for you?
Right. Yeah. And
like Ernie Clement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have no problem. I actually respect that he's not. He's respectively. I read the quote. Respectively declining to play because he's got to get his back, in order, and that's the right thing to do. The All-Star game is not. It doesn't matter anymore. And in terms of home field, his team is paying him $500 million for a contract. He's not healthy. He's part of the reason they're not playing as well. I'm actually, I'd be more shocked if he did play in it. So agree to disagree on that. He has to get healthy and rest up. This is his week to rest up.
So I'm going to leave. We're coming to the end of this because it's just time, right? But I do want to leave kind of a tease almost than anything else. But a question keeps coming up, and a lot of people want to disregard it, and a lot of people want to shoo it away and not get into it. We all, and let me preface this by saying, we all love the World Baseball Classic. We thought the WBC was amazing. But are we seeing now, later in the season, a payback? Is this what's happening because of the WBC? And there's a lot to it, and maybe it is, maybe it's not, but it sure is an awful big coincidence, if you ask me.
Yeah, if you want to leave it as a tease, it's a great tease because there's a lot to that. Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'll leave it as a tease, and we'll talk about it next week. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I appreciate everybody in here. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the questions, Steve. I appreciate you being here, getting in on that chat. Everybody else, thank you so much. I'm Pete. I'm the Baseball Nerd. You can reach me on Substack, thebaseballnerd@substack.com. This is Casey. Casey, tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, everybody that joined and your comments and everything like that, thank you for all showing up. Truly appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button that you see on your screen, that big orange button, Monday through Friday in your inbox. Daily publication for the Shea newsletter, not just Mets. We talk baseball as well. And say hello to the nerds, episode 3 in the books. And again, thanks for everybody. And appreciate you all coming to join us here on this Sunday.
Thanks, guys. Casey, you have a good week. We'll talk to you soon.
You too.